Space Marines Part 4. Forces of the Space Marines. Commanders. Chapter Master. To be a chapter master, some chapters use other titles for the commanding officers of the Adeptus Astar-tees is to be as a stern but kindly angel of death among men, as the Emperor is the god. A chapter master's personal combat prowess is unmatched, for his body is that of an Astartes, with hundreds of years of battlefield experience as a scout marine, battle brother, sergeant and finally as the captain of a chapter company. These experiences have taught him every facet of war, trained him in the tools of combat and honed his quick thinking to the level of primal instinct. Ranked high among the greatest heroes of the Imperium of Man during these dark days of what many fears are the end times are the chapter masters of the Space Marines. Even in the 41st millennium, a time of constant warfare between combatants like no others in human history, there are few amongst humanity's defenders that can claim such honor and renown as they, for in sheer scope of battles won and foes vanquished. The masters of the Space Marines have no peers save among the dead heroes of the past. With the merest glance, a chapter master can appraise a war zone, can see every threat and opportunity presented by the shifting lines of battle and then determine how victory can be won for the Imperium. A chapter master stands firm where other men falter, advances without fear when other men flee and retreats when only a true incompetent or someone in search of a fool's death would fight on. By his example, he inspires other men to the greater valor, not only the Space Marines under his command, but also Imperial Guardsmen and the Planetary Defense Force militia who often fight besides the Astartes. If a chapter master's personal might in the crucible of combat is unmatched, then the wider political power he wields is nothing short of epic. A chapter master is a noble peer of the Imperium, with the legal authority granted by the High Lords of Terror to act as he wishes according to his own judgment and answerable only to others of his rank among the Astartes. Even the Inquisition treads lightly around the masters of the Adeptus Astar-tees. In addition to the 1,000 Space Marines at his command, most chapter masters also hold authority over star-spanning battle barges, strike cruisers, navigators, astropaths, armorers and planetary defense forces. Indeed, most chapter masters rule entire worlds, systems or even subsectors of space in the Emperor's name as imperial governors and imperial commanders in their own right. Such places are zones of relative prosperity and stability in a galaxy riven by war, their potent defenses girded by the inestimable strength of a Space Marine chapter and the political patronage of its master. The Adeptus Astar-tees have access to some of the most powerful and rarest vehicles in the Imperium. They are all treated as holy relics, and lovingly maintained by the chapter's tech marines. Many vehicles are ancient SDC designs barely understood by the current knowledge available to the Adeptus Mechanicus. Honor Guard. Veteran Space Marines with centuries of service and multiple commendations and decorations are sometimes awarded the chance to serve in the chapter's Honor Guard. Every Astartes in a chapter Honor Guard have proven themselves to be living exemplars of the Space Marine ideal that the Primarch Robert Guilliman laid out in the Codex Astartes. Honor Guards are stoic and spiritually solemn individuals when at rest in the chapter's fortress monastery, but ferocious and unyielding in battle. Each has received the very highest honors that his battle brothers can bestow, performing deeds the likes of which lesser men can only dream. Indeed, it is said that each member of a chapter's honor guard has earned more commendations and glories in a lifetime's service than a whole company of Space Marines from any other chapter, and that each individual has slain more foes than an entire regiment of Imperial Guardsmen. So steeped are the honor guard in the art of war that their understanding of tactical and strategic combat commonly outstrips even the experience of the chapter's company captains. It is considered folly for even the master of the chapter to ignore the counsel of his honor guard. The most skilled member of the Honor Guard is usually selected as the chapter champion, whose duty it is to challenge any enemy commander to single combat. When this is not possible, the champion directs all his effort in the battle to killing the most elite individual enemy commanders to damage the opposing force's morale. An Honor Guard's war gear is drawn from amongst the most ancient relics of the chapter, for such men above all others have earned the right to wield such weapons and bear the burden of leadership that accompanies them. Thus, it is common for a chapter's Honor Guard to wear artificer power armor and wield masterwork versions of standard Astartes weapons. Most Space Marine chapters have only a handful of Honor Guard, enough to form a distinct and capable fighting unit surrounding the chapter master, but no more. A few of the older and larger chapters like the Ultramarines can muster as many as 24 Honor Guards, but it is rare even for them to fight as a unit. When in combat, the Honor Guard acts as the chapter master's bodyguard, responsible for the safety of the commander and hoisting aloft the chapter's battle standard. These are sacred tasks, and the Honor Guard fight for both ferociously, and never succumb to fear or rage which may cloud their judgment. Such courage and devotion have been the salvation of more than one chapter master's life. When a member of the Honor Guard is slain, his battle brothers will take any action necessarily to recover the body so that his gene seed may be returned to the chapter and his remains can be interred with full honors in the chapter's Vault of Heroes. Space Marine Captain. Each of the 10 companies in a Space Marine chapter falls under the command of an officer called a captain. Each captain is a hardened veteran, a master strategist who has proven his prowess in battle as a member of the chapter's elite first company, or through distinguished service in his own company as a squad sergeant prior to the death of his predecessor. In addition to his chapter rank, each captain also bears one or more honorific titles associated with the command of a particular company or responsibility. Some, such as Master of the Watch and Master of the Recruits, are common titles in use across almost all Space Marine chapters. Other titles are products of a particular chapter's history, culture and military specialities. The captain of the White Scar's 4th Company is traditionally the Master of the Hunt, while the Aurora Talons chapter, specializing in space warfare, maintains no less than 5 Master Bombardiers among the company captains. Individual captains can also be assigned to command missions that require the deployment of elements of the chapter beyond their own company. In these situations, an individual captain takes on the temporary rank of force commander and gains precedence over even other captains assigned to this mission. It is not enough for an Astartes captain to be a skilled warrior. Each chapter boasts many such men amongst its roster. He must also have a superhuman grasp of military strategy and combat tactics, as well as the intelligence to employ them in the ever-changing arena of warfare. It is commonly said in the Imperium that in terms of raw military might, every Space Marine is easily worth a dozen or so Imperial Guardsmen. Under the command of an experienced captain, this value can swell tenfold. A Space Marine captain is not simply a master of warfare, he must also have the gift of diplomacy and political adroitness. While most Imperial planetary governors and commanders are more than happy to receive aid from the Space Marines when in trouble, there are those whose arrogance must be carefully negotiated in order to prevent a battle's collapse into a true disaster for the broader Imperium through unnecessary political infighting. This is not to say a Space Marine captain lacks for ultimate authority when dealing with hubris and failure to the Emperor, as Captain K. Van Shrike of the Raven Guard's 3rd Company once proved by executing a vacillating Lord Cardinal Dostock on the spot. That said, subtler methods of diplomacy are best employed in grim situations. The necessary punitive measures can be enacted after the threat has been ended. A Space Marine never bends the knee lightly to any non-Astartes, but the needs of the Emperor's realm must override any personal feelings. The mission is always all. Humanity shall be saved from its own petty failings, even if this must be done one world at a time. In addition to the command of an entire company, it is common for Space Marine captains to hold a variety of other formal titles and functional duties within the chapter. A list of the most common formal titles held by Space Marine captains in a standard Codex Astar-tees compliant chapter looks like this. Lord Executioner. He is the captain who serves as the master of the chapter's assault company. He is a brutal and direct individual, not so much given to glittering heroics and flamboyant challenges as short, bloody and efficient close combats. Clutching his favored master-crafted melee weapon in his hands, he strides purposely forward in battle, the expression of a stone-cold killer writ on his face as he heads towards his grim duty. His artificer armor is often impressively detailed with embossed skulls, scroll work and multiple purity seals. Of all the Space Marine captains within a chapter, the Lord Executioner is the most menacing. Master of the Marches. As well as leading an entire company of Space Marines in battle, the Master of the Marches has the duty of overseeing the deployment of the chapter's fighting strength. It is his knowledge of chapter dispositions the chapter master turns to when readying for war. The Master of Marches is wholly devoted to his duty as he gazes at a massive length of parchment held aloft by a cyber cherub, which contains critical data. Upon his backpack are twin voxcasters which are utilized to project orders across the noisy battlefield. Master of Relics. He is the commander of the chapter's Devastator Company, an unmatched expert in the tactics of long-ranged warfare. He is also the custodian of the chapter's many technological masterpieces, the most dangerous of which are brought to the battlefield in times of exceptional strife. The Master of Relics is often clad in ancient patterns of power armor and armed with an impressive array of master-crafted weapons from the chapter's armories. He projects an aura of stoic watchfulness as he directs a withering look upon distant foes. On his backpack is a targeting array which matches the angle of his gaze, gathering telemetry information to be fed to his Devastator Marines. Master of Rites. He is charged with recording and preserving the martial traditions of the chapter, a bombastic, courageous warrior with unswerving loyalty to his battle brothers. This individual exudes a sense of martial pride and fervor to those around them. A large servo skull with an incorporated voxcaster that amplifies his war cries is anchored near his feet by a weighty pair of senses. The Master of Rites roars inspiring rhetoric during the heat of battle, reminding his battle brothers to remember the duty and heritage, even as they clash with the foe. Master of the Fleet. He is the Space Marine captain who is deemed to have the most experience and greatest skill at planning and executing void combats. He is given command of the chapter fleet and essentially serves as the chapter's fleet admiral, commanding its flagship and all other space assets when they deploy for major engagements. In rare cases, a chapter's Master of the Fleet may not be an Astartes officer but a mortal with a long history of space combat and commanding fleet engagements, such as a former or current command officer of the Imperial Navy who has been seconded to the chapter under ancient inter-service agreements. Master of Recruits. He is the officer who is responsible for training all of the chapter's neophytes and who usually also serves as the commander of the chapter's scout company. He will be a skilled veteran of hundreds of battles and a shrewd judge of character, easily able to determine what will bring out the best in the genetically altered adolescents who survived their aspirant trials and transform them into true Astartes. As the leader of a scout company, the Master of Recruits will be an expert in the irregular forms of combat that define the missions of Space Marine scouts, including sabotage, infiltration and counterinsurgency. Librarian. The Imperium of Man is eternally vigilant for the taint of mutation in its citizens, as a mutation of the perfect human form is a terrible heresy against the will of the Emperor. The chapters of the Adeptus Astar-tees are, if anything, even more careful to ensure that their gene seed is not polluted. Apothecaries rigorously screen potential recruits for any sign of genetic deviation, but not all mutation presents itself in a purely physical manner. Psychic talent is a mutation too, and is at once the most dangerous and the most useful. Detecting and developing nascent psychos is one of the many responsibilities of a chapter's librarian. Very few normal Space Marine recruits survive the rigorous training, genetic enhancement and indoctrination. Amongst librarians, this level of attrition is far worse. Not only must the recruit endure everything a normal recruit would, but he must be strong enough in spirit to withstand the molding of his mind. A recruit must be taught how to hone and wield his powers, and how to protect himself from the perils of the warp. A librarian faces 1,000 enemies before he ever goes to war. To the creatures of the warp he is a choice prize, for the sorceress aptitude and strong flesh to contain a demonic essence. If a recruit survives the testing, he joins the chapter librarius as lexicanium, rising through the ranks to become codicea, epistolary or perhaps even chief librarian. He will use his abilities to pierce the warp, provide the means for interstellar communication, and identify more of his own kind. A librarian's talents set him apart from his comrades. After all, a librarian wields abilities that every Space Marine is normally expected to abhor, yet the presence is always welcomed on the field of battle. Most librarian battle disciplines focus on strengthening and enhancing his already formidable combat prowess. He can unleash powerful energy bolts, prevent enemy machines from functioning, project force shields, increase his strength to near godlike proportions, or even eliminate the barrier between the warp and the physical realm, unleashing a devastating miniature warp storm. Even so, the most skilled librarians can master more subtle and even more potent psychic gifts. Some can step outside the confines of linear time, sense the enemy's movements, or redirect bullets with the power of their mind. In all of the Imperium, there are few greater warrior mystics, combining the prowess of the Adeptus Astar-tees with the steel discipline needed to contain and control the sorceress powers. Master of the Forge. The Master of the Forge is a chapter's most senior tech marine, charged with the maintenance of the chapter's fleet of armored fighting vehicles, such as rhinos, land raiders, and predators. His knowledge of the arcane sciences has been refined over centuries of service and rivals that of the senior tech priests of the Adeptus Mechanicus of Mars. The Master of the Forge is so skilled that he can tell what is wrong with a vehicle's machine spirit at but a glance. Such skills conspire to make the Master of the Forge something of an outcast in most Space Marine chapters. Though he is always part of the chapter council, the Master of the Forge is an outsider to all save his subordinate tech marines, whose company is shunned in all matters save those that pertain to his beloved mechanicals. Not all Space Marine chapters treat their Master of the Forge in this way. Some, such as the Mentors, the Praetors of Orpheus and the Astral Knights, embrace the dwindling advanced technologies of mankind without the usual superstition and, in the case of the Iron Hands, with an enthusiasm nearly matching the Mechanicus. In these chapters, the Master of the Forge is a personage honored no less than the chapter master himself. Such cases are not common among Astartes. Indeed, for one chapter to embrace the vision and purpose of a Master of the Forge is to invite suspicion from many of its more conventional brothers. In addition to his responsibilities to maintain the chapter armory, a Master of the Forge is also tasked with the conservation of any arcane technological artifacts to which his chapter is a successor. The oldest and most famous Astartes chapters have many such technological wonders from the time before the Horus heresy locked within their armory's vaults. Like the other tech marines who serve under him, the Master of the Forge is equipped with powerful bionic servo arms called mechadendrites that can be used for battlefield repairs or even put to use as another weapon. Masters of the Forge also sometimes wield an ancient pre-heresy weapon called the conversion beamer, whose projectors fire a beam of antimatter that induces a controlled subatomic reaction in the target, converting its mass into energy. The further away from the target, the more deadly the blast, as the beam has time to grow in power. Chaplains. Chaplains are the spiritual leaders of a Space Marine chapter. They administer the rites, preserve the rituals and perform the ancient ceremonies of initiation, vindication and redemption that are as important to a Space Marine chapter as its role of honor and skill at arms. Chaplains are daunting figures even for other Space Marines to behold. Their power armor is jet black and adorned with icons of battle and tokens of ritual and mystery. The skull helms are white, skeletal death masks that evoke the stern visage of the immortal Emperor decaying upon the Golden Throne. Every aspect of a chaplain's garb serves to remind all who gaze upon him of the mortality that faces all men and thus the importance of preserving the immortal soul. Beneath this stern visage is a man no less grim of aspect and manner. Chaplains are notoriously strict individuals. They are responsible for the spiritual well-being of the battle brothers and renowned for the sense of duty. A chapter's chaplains are the keepers of the reclusium, the fortress monastery's central shrine where prayer and worship is conducted. The reclusium is a place of great spiritual reverence, where battle standards hang from hallowed walls and the very stones echo with remembrance. Here are kept the chapter's most holy relics, fragments of armor, chapter banners from battles of legend, and the weapons of ancient heroes who long ago passed beyond the veil. Space Marine chaplains care nothing for the ravings of the ecclesiarchy and ignore the dictates of the imperial cult in favor of the chapter's own ancient traditions, though they often carry a rosarius as a symbol of their faith in the emperor like the priests of the ministerium. The first Space Marine chapters were founded many centuries before the development of the imperial cult and the dominion of the Adeptus Ministorum over the Imperium. Whereas the Adeptus Ministorum has gradually extended its influence over the many thousands of individual cults of emperor worship that once existed throughout the galaxy, it has never been able to influence the cults of the Astartes, which remain as stubbornly individualistic today as they ever were in the past. When war calls, a chaplain fights wherever the conflict is fiercest, leading from the front and rejoicing in the slaughter of the enemy as one doing righteous work. Punctuating his praise for the Emperor with strikes from his Crozius Arcanum, the skull-headed staff that is both a badge of office and his chosen weapon of war. By his example and his piety, the chaplain exhorts his brother Marines to the pinnacle of dedication, so that they might conquer with valor that which would resist all else. Command Squad. A command squad accompanies high-ranking Space Marine officers, usually company captains, on the field of battle. The exact nature and title of a command squad's members can vary, depending on a chapter's organization and the personality of a company's captain. The most common members of a command squad are the company champion, the company apothecary and the company banner bearer, and these Astartes can be found in almost all command squads. Even so, some Space Marine chapters prefer other titles and positions for a command squad in accordance with the traditions, such as the Foyseekers of the Omega Marines, the Prognosticars of the Silver Skulls, the Terrorblades of the Death Spectres and the Pyre Wardens of the Fire Lords. Company banner bearers carry the battle flag of the company in which they serve. Each standard is an ancient artifact, steeped in the history and the traditions of the chapter. The company banner is the physical heart of the company on the battlefield, and every Space Marine, from the most inexperienced scout marine to the most skilled veteran of the first company, fights all the more valiantly when it is within sight. The banner-bearer is trusted never to let the standard out of his grip while he still draws breath. To do otherwise is to invite the most terrible and shameful dishonor on both his company and the chapter as a whole. The apothecary is well versed in the arts of combat, first aid and triage, as well as the more advanced arcane sciences of surgery, cybernetics and bioengineering. He must also be a warrior of untold might and courage, for his place is in the bloody heart of battle. If an Astartes falls, the apothecary can use his advanced biomedical aid kit, his Nardosium, to tend the wounds, allowing his battle brother to return to combat even after suffering grievous wounds. Yet some weapons are terrible enough to mortally wound even a superhuman Astartes. The apothecary can then only calm the mind of the dying Astartes and prepare him for his eternal reward at the feet of the Emperor. Once dead, a space marine can live on through his gene seed, as the apothecary uses his reductor to remove the progenoid organs from the slain Astartes' corpse. For the genetic material held within these precious organs, the creation of new space marines and thus the continuation of the chapter is assured. Company champions are charged with defending the honor of the company, the chapter and the Emperor himself. They engage the greatest warriors and commanders of the enemy in single combat, leaving the company's captain free to command the wider battle, rather than engage in a series of personal combats. Most company champions have key roles in the rituals and ceremonies of the chapter, representing the battle brothers of the companies in the chapter's rites and rituals as honorably as they defend them on the field. Service in a command squad speeds promotion within the chapter, as most captains fill the command squads with Astartes whose skills in combat are equaled by the demonstrated strategic intelligence. Captains and the command squads can invariably be found where the fighting is thickest, and so a company captain's successor is often named from among those Astartes of his command squad who have proven themselves again and again against the most terrifying foes of the Emperor. Elites. Terminator Squad. All Space Marine chapters maintain a number of suits of the revered and rightly feared tactical Dreadnought armor, or Terminator armor as it is more commonly known. Suits of Terminator armor are the pinnacle of armored protection available to a Space Marine. Each is all but impervious to small arms fire and can even withstand the merciless onslaught of tank-busting Kraut missiles. Terminator armor is incredibly rare in the Imperium and is no longer manufactured by the Adeptus Mechanicus. Space Marines hold it a great honor to be permitted to wear such a suit in battle, and it is only the members of a chapter's elite first company who gain this honor. Once trained in the use of Terminator armor, a Space Marine is counted as the first among equals and is expected to conduct the most difficult of missions and to perform beyond even the already lofty standards of the Astartes. Boarding Tyranid-infested space hulks, launching teleport attacks, Titan assaults and combat actions in extremely hostile environments such as deep space or volcanic marshland, these are the missions undertaken by Space Marine Terminators. No foe is safe from a Terminator assault, not a horde of orcs, adamantium fortress or even a colossal chaos titan. The left shoulder plate of a suit of Terminator armor carries the large solid stone icon known as the Crux Terminatus. This doubles as a tactical symbol and is a revered honor badge of the Astartes. Each crux is reputed to have bound within its core a tiny fragment of the battle armor worn by the Emperor himself in his epic duel with Horus 10,000 years ago during the Battle of Terra. The design of this ancient badge can vary considerably, even within a single unit or chapter. Sergeants and officers' crux tend to be more elaborate and finely detailed than those worn by normal battle brothers, but all are venerated equally. To lose even a single crux in battle is to betray the Emperor's trust and bring great shame down on the entire chapter. 1st Company Vanguard Squad. Of all the fighting formations that make up a Codex Astartes compliant Space Marine chapter, it is the 1st Company which is most feared. For an Astartes to join the first company is for him to have won renown on battlefields uncounted and to have earned the respect of his battle brothers through deeds of blood and honor. Most such veterans have served as sergeants elsewhere in the chapter, sometimes for centuries, before being accepted into the first company, but a notable few were elevated after performing insane acts of heroism. Every member of the first company is proficient in all manner of Astartes weaponry and stands as a living exemplar of the ideals and purpose of the chapter. With such status comes the right to select weapons of choice from the chapter's armory, and, as a result, veteran squads are much less rigid in composition and doctrine than other Space Marine formations. They are often equipped and ordered to undertake highly specialized missions that can prove to be force multipliers, such as slaying an orc war boss and his bodyguard of knobs or preventing a wave of Eldar aspect warriors from joining the main body of an enemy Eldar force. The Vanguard squads are formed from those members of the first company that completely immerse themselves in the art of close-quarter combat. Most have completed lengthy service rotations in the chapter's assault squad, the skills tested and honed in the crucible of bloody melee on 1,000 worlds. Power swords, plasma pistols and power fists are all common sights in Vanguard veteran squads, and thunder hammers, lightning claws and rarer weaponry also employed as the engagement requires. These weapons are not employed lightly, for they are without exception ancient and revered artifacts of the chapter. A Vanguard veteran who returns from the field of battle without his armament is subject to the chapter's grueling rites of penance. Whilst they can be deployed at the forefront of an assault, most chapters employ their Vanguard veterans as rapid response forces, using jump pack or rhino transport to apply crucial pressure to an already overtaxed enemy defense or to reinforce overmatched allies. Often referred to as a captain's Iron Fist, Vanguard veterans are constantly in motion. 1st Company Sternguard Squad. Sternguard Astar-tees veterans of the elite 1st Company deploy wherever the battle line is most vulnerable, facing down the most impossible odds with icy calm and precise bursts of bolter fire. They are the very image of what every Space Marine aspires to become, and the pinnacle of any chapter's fighting force. In contrast to the battle brothers of the 1st Company's Vanguard squads, Sternguard veterans draw upon the chapter armory's ranged weaponry. The squad sergeant will sometimes wield a specialized melee weapon, but this is the extent to which a Sternguard squad will employ close combat weaponry. Most Sternguard veterans carry bolters with meticulously crafted sights and modified scopes. Heavier weapons are also available, such as the missile launcher and las cannon, but these are normally eschewed for the more portable bolter. Any potential shortfall in firepower is compensated for by the range of specialist bolt gun ammunition a Sternguard veteran can carry into battle, including unstable flux core vengeance rounds for heavily armored targets, propellant-rich Kraken bolts for extended-range engagements, and the acidic fury of Hellfire rounds for bringing down even the angriest greenskin or Tyranid monstrosity. In most chapters, there is a rivalry of sorts between the Vanguard and Sternguard halves of the veteran 1st Company. These factions compete endlessly for honors and hazardous combat duties, the glories and shames of their adherents celebrated and atoned for by all. Despite this innate rivalry, Vanguard and Sternguard veterans remain battle brothers above all else and fight unto death for one another. Tech Marines. Ancient pacts sworn between the Adeptus Mechanicus and the Adeptus Astar-tees allow the Space Marines to send those warriors with an affinity for technology to Mars to train and begin the long, arduous journey of becoming a priest of the machine god. Without the passing on of such ancient technological lore, the Space Marines would be unable to make war. Aspiring Tech Marines train for many years on Mars, steeping themselves in rites of activation and hymnals of maintenance, how to call forth a machine spirit or placate its wrath. Tech Marines return to the chapter as aloof and mysterious figures steeped in superstitious awe. For that point forth they are men of dual loyalties, pledged by blood to the chapter, but bound in mind and spirit to the mysteries of the Mechanics' Omnissiah. This dichotomy ensures that a Tech Marine is never again truly trusted by his brothers and is kept at arm's length from the chapter's secrets and rituals. Despite this suspicion, Tech Marines are held in great esteem by the Battle Brothers, who recognize and acknowledge the Tech Marines' expertise in the mysterious arcane sciences. A Space Marine chapter would be of little consequence without its many technological tools, and its ancient weapons must be kept in a constant state of readiness. Without the Tech Marines this would be impossible. Despite their arcane calling, they are warriors first and foremost. Should a vehicle or artifact of technology be lost, the Tech Marines will fight for its retrieval as stridently as the Brethren would fight to recover a fallen comrade, perhaps, like the Tech Priest counterparts, even harder. Servitors. Servitors are single-task, mindless cyborg slaves that exist solely to assist the chapter's Tech Marines in their laborious duties. Each is an arcane combination of man and machine, without personality or reason, sporting an array of mechanical modifications ranging from huge metal claws and infrared senses to bionic exoskeletons and flux torsion drills. All the better to aid a Tech Marine in his repair and maintenance of a chapter's armory. Some servitors are even bonded to heavy weapons so that they may act as battlefield bodyguards of their master. The creation of mysteries for servitors vary from chapter to chapter. Some are grown from human gene cells in artificial nutrients and have their machine components grafted onto them after they are decanted. Others are failed neophytes, civilian imperial criminals or fugitives from chapter lore who have been mind-wiped and lobotomized so that the flesh may continue to serve the Emperor's purpose. Although physically strong and robust, servitors are not sentient and can only function at the command of the bioprograms that Tech Marines insert into the brains. They feel little pain, no fear, and have no intuition whatsoever. Without a Tech Marine's constant supervision, servitors are erratic at best, most go into a state of mindlock, babbling incoherent nonsense as their ravaged brains try to assert some form of awareness. Nonetheless, a Space Marine chapter relies heavily on its servitors to maintain its weapons of war. Hundreds of biomechanoid slaves toil ceaselessly deep within the walls of every chapter fortress monastery, preparing and maintaining weapons of war. Though essential to the maintenance of a chapter's mechanical devices and a fleet of starships, servitors rarely enjoy anything save indifference from the Astartes they serve. In most chapters, the servitors are ignored by all but the Tech Marines, treated as one would any other machine or piece of equipment. In others, they are treated with revulsion, considered necessary abominations that pervert the spirit and the flesh of man. Conversely, in a very few Space Marine chapters, generally those with strong ties to the Adeptus Mechanicus like the Iron Hands, servitors are regarded as having achieved a spiritual union with the Omnissiah. In such chapters, servitors are treated as cybernetic shrines, revered almost as greatly as other technological artifacts, their laconic words sifted and analyzed for hints of prophecy and guidance from the machine god. Those Space Marines who follow these arcane practices believe that in so doing they are brought closer to the Omnissiah. To other chapters, such behavior is thought distasteful to the point of heresy and regarded with hostility and suspicion. What the servitors think of all this, if indeed they are even capable of thinking, none know. Dreadnought. When a Space Marine suffers grievous harm, the like of which even his superhuman physique cannot endure, his ravaged body is borne from the battlefield with great reverence. Most such men die swiftly of their wounds or receive the Emperor's mercy from one of the chapter's apothecaries. Their lifeless forms are cremated, interred, or sent to journey the infinite void, according to the traditions of the chapter. but the greatest of Space Marines who fall in battle with grievous and often life-threatening wounds that cannot be repaired using standard bionics or medical treatments are placed into a cybernetic dreadnought shell that allows the interred Astartes to continue to live through a sophisticated array of life support machines. The pilot of the dreadnought is hooked straight into the dreadnought's systems to preserve him and allows the crippled Space Marine to control the dreadnought as if it were his own body. The hero's crippled body is installed in the cyborganic web of an armored sarcophagus, his dimmed senses bound to electrofiber implants. It is a great honor to be deemed worthy enough by one's battle brothers to be interred in a dreadnought so that one can keep fighting in the Emperor's name for many more millennia, as the knowledge to create new dreadnought shells has been lost over the long centuries. Some Marines that have been placed in the great dreadnoughts have been around since the Emperor himself still walked among his people during the Great Crusade. When the dreadnoughts are not needed by the chapter, they are placed back into the chapter's chapel to sleep away the centuries until they are needed once more. Many an assault commences with a wave of dreadnoughts to first drive a wedge through the enemy's defenses. A dreadnought is a truly massive fighting machine, weighing several tons and standing 2 or 3 times the height of a man. As the dreadnought strides purposefully into battle, incoming fire spatters like rain off his towering adamantium and ceramite hull. Fiery death roars from his weapons and his great metal arms churn through all who are foolish enough to stand before him. Actual weapon loadout varies from dreadnought to dreadnought and the needs of the mission. The close support pattern of assault cannon and power fist is by far the most common dreadnought configuration, although the tank-hunting las cannon or bunker-breaching multi-melter and seismic hammer combination are equally fearsome. Needless to say, the hero that guides the armored cybernetic Hulk is more than proficient in all the many weapons and tactics employed by the Space Marines. A dreadnought's raw power is made all the more deadly because it is wielded with all the grim resolve of the mortally wounded veteran Astartes bound in its core and directed by centuries, or even millennia, of experience. The memories of these powerful venerable dreadnoughts can extend back thousands of years to the founding of the chapter and its earliest history. Thus they are revered by other Space Marines, not just as potent warriors, but also as ageless forebears and as a living embodiment of battles fought long ago. Dreadnoughts are not seen merely as formidable weapons of war, but as keepers of tradition and custodians of knowledge whose advice is sought by initiate and chapter master alike. It is not unknown for dreadnoughts to serve as members of the chapter council, lending wisdom to strategy as they do fury to the battlefield. Dreadnought shells are amongst the most prized of the chapter's relics. Should a dreadnought fall in battle, his brothers will fight with righteous anger to retrieve the shell so that they may lay its occupant to rest with honor and reclaim the shell to house another dying hero who will become an old one to future generations. Ironclad Dreadnought. The Ironclad Dreadnought is a specialized variant of the standard Imperial Dreadnought combat walker that is used by the chapters of the Adeptus Astar-tees. Dreadnoughts are cybernetic combat walkers that house the mortal remains of a fallen Space Marine hero so that he may continue fighting for the Emperor and his chapter even after his body has been fatally crippled. Dreadnoughts are classified in several different ways, the most common of which is simply by their armament. Standard dreadnoughts are equipped with a long-range weapon such as an assault cannon in place of one of their arms, and their other is tipped with a dreadnought close combat weapon, such as an enlarged power fist. The Ironclad Dreadnought variant was designed for heavy close combat fighting and siege warfare similar to the Siege Dreadnought, yet the Ironclad Dreadnought is more commonly found in Space Marine armories. Ironclad Dreadnoughts sacrifice versatility and firepower for an even greater amount of armored protection and powerful, dedicated siege weaponry, and while they may not be as effective as the Siege Dreadnought in close quarters, street-to-street urban combat, they more than make up for it by way of their powerful close combat weaponry and extreme durability. Legion of the Damned. The haunting legend of the Legion of the Damned is known across the galaxy, and even non-believers speak of such things in hushed tones. These silent warriors are space marines in appearance, the black armor adorned with images of bones and fire, yet they are not of any chapter recognized in the Imperium. Most eyewitnesses dispute even the legionaries' mortality, for an eerie glow suffuses the sable armor and a halo of ghostly fire dances about the feet. There are many corroborated accounts of legionaries enduring firepower that would annihilate mortal men. Among them is a report from the Chian battle zone, where a handful of Legion of the Damned were witnessed walking unharmed from the volcano cannon blast that claimed 4 Predators and several squads of Space Marines. The bolters carried by the legionaries, though in aspect no different to those borne by other Space Marines, discharge flaming projectiles that can pierce the strongest armor. Nothing, not chaos-chosen, rock-created bastion, nor boiling lava can stay the spectral wrath of the Legion of the Damned. The nature and origin of the Legion of the Damned is shrouded in mystery and myth. Some rumors suggest that they are the survivors of the lost Firehawks chapter, transmuted by the warp storm that claimed their vessel. Others imply that the Legion are an extension of the Emperor's will, time-lost saviors, or even the vengeful spirits of Space Marines slain in the Imperium's many wars. In the course of their investigations, several Inquisitors have tried to capture or intercept the Legion of the Damned, but all have failed. Events always inexplicably conspire to prevent the Inquisitors from getting close to the quarry, leaving them nothing more than frustrated witnesses to the event. Who or what guides the Legion of the Damned is an enigma to all save the beneficent Emperor himself. They appear only in times of great need, coalescing from the fires of a desperate battlefield to turn a disaster into victory. Regardless of the conflict, the legionaries fight with a chill precision that few mortal warriors can match, sweeping enemy positions like vengeful ghosts. Terror is their harbinger and oblivion the gift. After the battle, the Legion of the Damned departs as suddenly as they arrived, leaving only the bodies of the slain and wonder in their wake. Centurion Assault Squad. A Centurion is a Space Marine who has been equipped with a powered exoskeleton worn over his normal suit of power armor known as a Centurion warsuit that allows him to serve a heavy ranged or close combat assault role between that of a normal Astartes and a Terminator. A Centurion warsuit enables a Space Marine to stride into battle with the firepower of a battle tank at his fingertips. Protected by thick ablative plates of ceramite, a Centurion warsuit renders its pilot immune to all but the most powerful of weapons. Named after the Space Marine Legion leaders of old, the Centurion warsuit design was unearthed in the aftermath of the Age of Apostasy in the 36th Millennium, and after sanction by the Adeptus Mechanicus, the suits found their way into the armories of almost every Space Marine chapter. Centurion assault squads excel at storming enemy fortifications and advancing through the broken and crumbling terrain of an embattled city. They eschew long-ranged weapons completely, favoring close-range firearms and flamers that they use for flushing enemies from cover. Instead of heavy guns, they wield siege drills, heavy-duty tools of destruction that can swiftly shatter a building to rubble, tear a breach in a strongpoint's adamantium-reinforced walls, or reduce a living opponent to a bloody mass of broken bone. Troops. Tactical Squad. Tactical squads are the backbone of any Space Marine force. They are called upon to fulfill the full range of combat roles. They hold ground, provide fire support, or charge into the bloody melee of close combat, as the ever-changing theater of battle dictates. For an Astartes to be assigned to a tactical squad, he must have proven himself beyond doubt in all aspects of war. So it is that a Space Marine must complete several campaigns in both Assault and Devastator squads before he can earn a permanent position in one of the chapter's tactical squads. This progression must be earned in blood and can last for years, or even decades, depending on the skills of the Space Marine in question. Not all Space Marines make the transition. Some demonstrate a talent or obsession for a particular aspect of the battle that, while immensely valuable in its own way, would prove a liability in the adaptive role of the tactical squad. Other battle brothers simply lack the mental flexibility to embrace the fluidity of the tactical squad's role. As befits its varied battlefield role, a tactical squad takes to the field with a wide variety of weaponry. In addition to the standard Space Marine armament of bolt pistol and grenades, most tactical Space Marines carry a bolter. This formidable anti-infantry firepower is complemented by a heavy weapon, such as a missile launcher, las cannon or heavy bolter, and a special issue weapon, such as a flamer or meltargon. As these armaments are chosen to match the requirements of each deployment, and weaponry duties are rotated between all members of the squad save the sergeant, so all tactical Space Marines must be trained and capable with every weapon the squad can be called upon to field. Of all Space Marine combat units, it is the tactical squad that makes the greatest use of the chapter's armor pool, often performing surgical strikes or seizing strategic points with the aid of fast-moving razorbacks or rhinos. Some chapters, most notably the Angels of Fury, the Vanguard and the Legion of Night, have even forged their combat doctrines around such tactics. Each tactical squad is led by a grizzled sergeant who has survived and thrived through several decades, or even centuries, of hard and brutal campaigning. It is essential that a tactical squad be led by a canny and daring individual capable of reading the battle for an opportunity, and it is quite common for tactical squad sergeants to be seconded from the elite 1st Company of Veterans. This ensures that the core of a chapter's combat forces has highly experienced leadership. Scout Squad. When first accepted into a Space Marine chapter after undergoing years of biological enhancement, an initiate joins the ranks of the 10th Company as a Space Marine Scout. He is placed under the tutelage of a veteran sergeant who will lead him into his first combats and oversee his training and educate him in what it truly means to be Astartes. A Space Marine Scout has much to learn. Not only must he become accustomed to the many genetically engineered enhancements which are at work on his body, but he must learn the litany of battle which will fortify and strengthen him. Through a grueling training regime that lasts for many months, the initiate will learn how to use the battle gear on which his life depends, and he will get his first real chance to fight the enemies of mankind. Throughout his entire tenure as a Space Marine Scout, the initiate is watched over and taught by his sergeant, his actions guided and judged as he strikes the foe at the weakest point with bolter, shotgun and blade. As his training progresses, the scout will grow proficient with many other Astartes weapons, such as the heavy bolter, sniper rifle, missile launcher and melter bomb. Acting as part of an infiltration force, a scout will become skilled at every aspect of war. He will learn that to be a Space Marine is to be death incarnate, no matter the terrain, the nature of the foe, or the weapons that dominate the battlefield. More lightly armed and armored than more experienced battle brothers, Space Marine Scouts chiefly fight as skirmishers. Their duties are to infiltrate enemy positions ahead of the rest of the chapter, relying on stealth, rather than brute force, to accomplish their mission objectives. Operating behind enemy lines, scouts set ambushes for the unwary, destroy ammunition dumps and vehicle pools, spy out the enemy's movements and gather what information they can about their opponent's plans. Sometimes scouts will pounce unseen within an unsuspecting enemy camp, capturing a commander for interrogation or sabotaging equipment and supplies. Striking in silence, the scouts' goal is to accomplish their mission and vanish before the enemy has the chance to retaliate in force. Scout squads are often detailed to conduct boarding actions against Tyranid hive ships or perform seek-and-destroy missions against the hive mind synapse creatures that direct Tyranid invasions. as standard heavy bolter shells have often proven ineffective against the larger Tyranid bioforms. Most chapters now issue the scouts with specialized Hellfire ammunition, heavy ceramic shells containing a virulent mutagenic acid that ruptures and burns its way through organic tissue. Such weaponry can bring down even a rampaging Carnifex and is no less deadly when turned upon more mundane foes like Chaos Cultists. Crusader Squad. A Crusader Squad is the standard tactical organization employed by the Black Templars chapter of Space Marines. The Black Templars are organized in a different manner to many Codex Astartes compliant chapters and do not follow the dictates of the Codex Astartes in many ways, notably in the recruitment, training and deployment of their warriors. The majority of Black Templars battle brothers, known within the chapter as initiates, are organized into Crusader squads, which form the backbone of any strike force unleashed by the chapter. Many Crusader squads have the honor of being led to battle by one of the chapter's sword brethren, veterans whose deeds and example inspire the initiates to ever greater acts of courage. Crusader squads are armed primarily with the Holy Bolter, though given the Black Templars' preference for fighting their foes face-to-face, many choose to carry chainswords and other weapons more suited to the cut and thrust of close combat. Epitomizing the Black Templars' righteous zeal and the drive to defeat the foes in battle. Before a Black Templars recruit marches to war as an initiate, he must first prove his mettle as a neophyte. Unlike other Space Marine chapters, the Black Templars have no dedicated scout company in which its aspirants are trained. Instead, the Black Templars recruits train within a chapter keep and, once they're deemed ready by the keep's castellan, are transported to one of the Black Templars' fleets. Here, the neophytes are put through even more grueling trials as the chapter's initiates test the strength, martial skills and faith to the limits. Should a survivor of these trials impress one of the assembled battle brothers, an initiate may take it upon himself to personally mentor the neophyte in the art of war. From that point on, the initiate takes sole responsibility for his pupil's training and conduct. He swears an oath to prepare the neophyte for his entry into the brotherhood that is the chapter, teach him of its history, and guide him through its holy rites of worship to the Emperor. In return, the neophyte pledges obedience to his master and vows never to bring dishonor to his name. Neophytes also act as servants to their mentors, waiting on them at the great banquets and seeing to the day-to-day requirements. Fast attack. Assault squad. Assault squads of Astartes excel at close-quarter, melee fighting. Equipped with jump packs and armed with bolt pistols and chainswords, they scream across the battlefield like avenging angels, charging into the foe with little heed for danger. A Space Marine is commonly assigned to an assault squad after service amongst the Devastators. By this time he has garnered battle experience and can be counted on to hold his ground before the foe. Now he must temper himself in the most brutal arena of war and prove his worth in the melee of close combat. The Codex Astartes dictates that assault squads should be unleashed in the first wave of an attack to strike hard and fast at weak points in the foe's formation. Opposing infantry are shredded with chainsword and bolt pistol, enemy tanks with crack grenades and melter bombs. Such is the way of the Space Marines, to deliver an irresistible and overwhelming blow to a single point, to crush the enemy without mercy before moving on to the next target. The jump pack is easily as dangerous as any weapon the assault marine carries. With a jump pack comes mobility, allowing the assault squad to traverse all manner of terrain swiftly and without hindrance, or even perform controlled low-altitude descents from Thunderhawk gunships. So it is that the assault squad can be a weapon of subtlety in the hands of a capable commander. It can dive without warning on an enemy warlord who believes himself secure amongst his own lines, operate as a highly mobile counterpunch unit, or perform vital reconnaissance in war zones unsuitable for the deployment of lightly armored, less experienced scouts. In certain circumstances, assault squads are even used as bait, luring an unwary enemy force onto a prepared defensive position, or redirecting them away to buy time for further preparation or evacuation. Often operating far ahead of the rest of the army, assault marines are in constant danger of being outflanked, cut off, or simply overwhelmed by the enemy. To guard against this, the commanding sergeant of an assault squad has a direct uplink to myriad data streams and tactical overlays, the command and control relays through which the Space Marines coordinate the deployments and battles. Even if he is knee-deep in corpses and fighting for his life, an assault squad sergeant must be aware not only of his current situation, but also any imminent developments that could leave his squad stranded in a sea of foes. Should this occur, only iron resolve will allow the assault marines to hack their way clear and claim victory. Landspeeder Squadron. The Landspeeders fielded by the Space Marines are an evolution of a standard template construct pattern from the dark age of technology discovered in the wake of the Horus Heresy Advanced. Utilizing this ancient technology, the Landspeeder uses a repulsion plate to skim a planet's gravitational field, simulating the effect of flight, and enabling it to perform low-altitude maneuvers that more conventional atmosphere-capable craft would find nigh impossible. Early Landspeeder designs were relatively unarmored, but over the millennia the design has been modified with light adamantium plating. This alteration was made not from the sake of the crew. Power armor provides a greater degree of protection than even the heaviest armor on a Landspeeder, but to better protect the vehicle's delicate control units. All of the chapter's Space Marines are trained to fight as Landspeeder squadrons as part of the service in an assault squad, but the craft are most commonly piloted by those battle brothers who embrace the speed of which a Landspeeder is capable. With their versatile weapons loadout, Landspeeders can be tasked to a variety of battlefield objectives. These can range from lightly armed reconnaissance and scout deployments, to tank hunting or other seek-and-destroy missions. The gravitational drive of a Landspeeder does not allow it to function at high altitudes, but it can be used to perform a controlled descent from the upper atmosphere. This allows a Landspeeder to deploy from overflying Thunderhawk gunships and assail the enemy without warning. Though they are often ordered to support other units, Landspeeders can be, and are, deployed en masse in many engagements. Some Space Marine chapters routinely field their entire fleet of Landspeeders as a fast-moving and nigh unstoppable assault wave, blasting a hole in the enemy battle line that rhino-mounted tactical squads can exploit, before peeling off and engaging another target with a similarly devastating effect. The Landspeeder's other variant patterns in use by many Astartes chapters include the Landspeeder Tornado. The Tornado pattern Landspeeder mounts twice as many heavy weapons as the basic Landspeeder and can also choose from a wider variety of weapons, able to mount an assault cannon or a heavy flamer. The Landspeeder Typhoon. It is extraordinarily effective at anti-personnel actions on the battlefield. The Typhoon mounts a twin-linked Typhoon missile launcher. The Typhoon missile inflicts a hard hit at long range and rarely misses since it is twin-linked. The Typhoon Landspeeder variant's only real drawback is its lack of versatility. The Typhoon missile launcher is excellent at destroying infantry or light vehicles, but almost useless against even medium armor such as the Eldar Falcon or Tau Devilfish. The Landspeeder Tempest. Sporting better armor, an assault cannon, and a twin-linked missile launcher, the Tempest is among the most feared versions of the Landspeeder. The Tempest has a difficult combination of weapons. The assault cannon has a medium range while the missile launcher fires out to a decently long range in comparison. Better frontal armor means that the Tempest can usually get in close to enemy troops without much worry. A maximum of only 3 Tempests are normally fielded in a standard Space Marine force. However, the twin-linked firepower of the Tempest's missile launcher and its heavier armor than the standard Landspeeder make the Tempest a force to be reckoned with. The Landspeeder Storm. It is a significant modification of the original design, trading the traditional heavy armament for modest transport capacity. The resulting craft is the equal of its parent in matters of speed and maneuverability, but can also carry a small scout squad without any loss of performance. Furthermore, a Landspeeder Storm's baffled engines and sophisticated spy array afforded a stealthy profile best suited to the Space Marine Scout's mission of clandestine hit-and-run attacks. As a result, each can be used as a mobile firebase, assault transport or stealth insertion craft as the combat objectives dictate. To further enhance the Landspeeder Storm's effectiveness in strike missions, many chapters replace a Landspeeder's standard underslung heavy bolter armament with a Cerberus launcher. This tri-barreled weapon fires a disorienting volley of frag, stun and blind rockets into enemy positions, allowing the scouts to move in and mop up any survivors. When combined with the rapier speed of the Landspeeder Storm, the Cerberus launcher allows scouts to launch rapid and daring assaults at an otherwise impenetrable defense line with impunity. Space Marine Bike Squad. Astartes bike squads carry out fast-moving assault missions using 8 one-man assault bikes and sometimes with the addition of a single 2-man attack bike, often operating on intelligence gathered by infiltrating scout squads or Landspeeder reconnaissance flights. A bike squad at full strength, for a total of 8 bikes and 1 attack bike, can split into 2 combat squads. If this is done, one combat squad consists of 5 bikes and the other of 3 bikes and an attack bike. Bike squads attack at incredible speeds, using surprise and unstoppable momentum to punch holes in the enemy formation, accelerating away as the enemy recovers his wits only to circle back and attack once again from an unexpected direction. For a Space Marine biker to operate at full potency, the superhuman rider and his mechanical steed must function flawlessly as one. To this end, the Codex Astar-tees dictates that all of the chapter's assault marines, scouts and the entire 6th Company should master the art of mounted warfare as part of the training regimen. A few chapters take this further, with every Space Marine required to maintain his mounted training, even though he may have long passed into the 1st Company, or perhaps even into the exalted ranks of the Chapter Council. Few chapters exemplify this better than the White Scars, who proudly employ bike squads as the main body of any strike force. Other chapters are less enamored of a bike squad's tactical value, preferring to send assault forces into battle in rhinos or razorbacks. The Space Marine bike itself is a robust construction. It needs to be, for it must be powerful enough to propel a fully armored Space Marine at dizzying speeds, and yet responsive enough to perform a full range of death-defying combat maneuvers. Even at low speeds, the combined impact mass of bike and rider is no small thing to encounter. Indeed, many experienced Space Marine bikers can boast of riding through rock-create walls at full pelt, suffering neither harm nor impediment. For the heaviest assault missions, it is common for a bike squad's assault bike firepower to be further augmented through the attachment of an attack bike. Each attack bike is a highly formidable mobile firebase, with the twin bolters of the bike itself augmented by a multi-melter or heavy bolter mounted on a sturdy sidecar. So potent is the striking power of the attack bike that many chapters field them in entire squads, employing them as fast-moving fire support units to complement scouts, assault marines or other bike squads. On those rare occasions when attack bikes are deployed en masse, as they were by the fabled White Scars chapter during the Third War for Armageddon, they proved to be a nigh unstoppable foe. During the final stages of a Space Marine Scout's training, he is attached to a Scout Bike Squadron. Scout bikers are employed as fast-moving reconnaissance and disruption units. They operate on a far longer leash than other scouts, often operating as a separate and distinct adjunct to the main Space Marine strike force, answerable to none save the commanding sergeants of the squadron. While scout bikers continue to perform the hit-and-run tactics they perfected in their earlier years of service, their repertoire of combat skills is broadened by hard-won experience and further augmented by supplies of special-issue equipment. While the enemy concentrates on the main Space Marine attack, the scout bikers ride rampant behind his lines, calling down orbital bombardments and reserve deployments with pinpoint accuracy. Storm Talon gunship. The Storm Talon gunship is an aerial intercept and ground attack aircraft that serves in the armies of the Adeptus Astar-tees. The Storm Talon possesses vertical takeoff and landing capabilities which allows it to hover in place while unleashing its potent barrage, as well as engaging in more conventional dogfights like a supersonic interceptor. The Storm Talon is swift enough to engage nearly all but the fastest of enemy aircraft, whilst simultaneously being well armed enough to reduce the chosen foe to a mangle of twisted wreckage and ruined flesh. The arrival of a single Storm Talon from the war-torn skies has reversed the tide of many desperate battles where the Space Marines on the ground face certain defeat. The Storm Talon can always be counted upon to deliver a hail of ferocious firepower. Whether its weapons are pointed at enemy ground positions or incoming aerial opponents, it is more than capable of obliterating the threat. The Storm Talon gunship usually operates in a squadron of 3, known as a Skyhammer squadron. A Storm Talon is often assigned to escort other mission-critical units. In this role, the Storm Talon is all but unmatched. At one moment it can be screaming across the battlefield at death-defying speeds, at the next, its pilot can switch over to repulsor systems, trading raw speed for agility, all the while strafing enemy positions with a thunderous barrage of shells and missiles. Such were the tactics employed by the Ultramarines chapter at the Battle of Cold Steel Ridge. Here, Storm Talon pilots pushed the gunships to the limit, afterburners propelling the aircraft to bone-jarring speeds in their attempts to intercept monstrous harpies and flocks of gargoyles whose winged bodies were darkening the skies. No sooner had the Storm Talons regained air superiority than the pilots were vectoring their aircraft's engines, hovering above the battle brothers on the ground and holding great swarms of charging Tyranids at bay with whiffering salvos of firepower.